understanding lower back pain. We are into April, crazy how time flies, and this month we are talking all about understanding lower back pain. Now, to understand lower back pain or troubles related to the lower back, first we need to understand what normal is. So, what is normal anatomy, normal function of your pelvis and your lumbar spine, which is your lower back? Now, let's start by reviewing anatomy. So, pretty much this is your spine. This is looking from the front. This is looking from the back. Your pelvis is kind of where things start. Now, technically, your pelvis is part of your extremities instead of your axial skeleton, but the pelvis and the sacrum and the lumbar spine works quite interconnected, and ultimately your whole body is quite interconnected. So I like to talk about this part as one kind of interconnected system. Now, your pelvis, you've got these two big pelvic bones or nominate bones, triangular sacrum in the middle, and three joints that connects them. So there's your SI joint, your sacroiliac joint, and then there's the pubic joint up the front. Now, when it comes to biomechanics and how the spine works, you sacrifice mobility for stability. Now, your pubic joint is something that can cause some troubles at times, but it's a pretty stable joint and as a result, less mobile. So more often than not, any dysfunction in the pelvis we see related to these SI joints. Now, the way these SI joints work is they are very susceptible to loaded rotation. So we typically see these joints give troubles or possibly get injured if we're lifting and twisting. Now we come into the lower spine, the lower back, the lumbar spine, and you've got 5 of these lumbar vertebrae. These lumbar vertebrae are separated by little discs. Now, in the past, we used to think of these discs as shock absorbers. So we used to think that the discs are shock absorbers. But what we know now is that it's actually the curve in the lumbar spine, which is the shock absorber. The curve in the spine is like a spring. And so when we lose that normal structure, we lose that curve in that lower spine, now we don't have the shock absorber anymore, and the discs become the shock absorber. Now, obviously, when something does a job it's not designed for, it's going to age a little bit quicker. It's just like any part in your car. If it has more load on it, it's going to age a little bit quicker. Now, this is where we know that degenerative changes or osteoarthritis in the spine is not quite synonymous with aging. There's a reason why those joints are aging quicker than other joints. Because if it was just aging, all the joints will age evenly. But when we look at the lower back, the more common areas that we see degeneration is in these lower 2 vertebrae. Interestingly, when we look at Eastern cultures where they sit or squat low down to the ground to go to the toilet, to have dinner, to wait for the bus, we barely see any of the levels of lumbar disease or degeneration or osteoarthritis as what we see in the Western world. So that's a big takeaway from normal anatomy, is that it's not normal for your spine to degenerate or wear as you age. That is a sign of the dysfunction. Now, as I said, your spine is all interconnected, so that curve in your lumbar spine leads to a curve in that mid-back, which leads to a curve in the neck, and it's all 3 of those curves really working together that helps your body function as normal as what it should. Last little takeaway from today is just again touching on what normal is. So we're a big believer on health is normal. So it's not that you've got bad parts or broken parts. It's not that you have a bad back. You have unmet needs. Everybody, your natural state is to be healthy. And so if you're not expressing optimal health, it's not that something, like I said, it's not like you were born with bad genes or a bad back. There's something that your body requires to be healthy that's not being fulfilled. It's like a plant. If you don't give it sunlight, the plant's going to wilt and fade away. And you can say it's a bad plant, or you could just give it some sunlight and it'll strive towards being healthy. So this month, we're going to touch on some of the requirements that your spine, particularly your lower back, has to be healthy. Until next time, have a great day.